Okay, so welcome to Attacking the Recruiting Process. My name's Amanda Millard, and I am the director of VolleyballRecruits.net. VolleyballRecruits.net is the official recruiting tool of USA Volleyball, and just to give you kind of a little quick background about what that is and who I am, that way you guys get a feel for kind of who I am. Volleyball Recruits was sort of the brainchild of a couple former college athletes. The company's sort of mother site is actually a lacrosse program. It's called lacrosserecruits.com for anyone out there who has lacrosse kiddos. They also have a platform for lacrosse. And it's been very successful, very popular. And USA Volleyball, the president of USA Volleyball, David Schreff, got wind of lacrosse recruits, and they were doing quite a bit of research into recruiting tools, trying to figure out a way to better represent the junior members who actually make up 90% of their member base. They also work in the Olympics and have a handle on all of that. But the goal was to put together a recruiting tool to help junior members make that transition from high school to college. And so they did a lot of research into tools, came across lacrosserecruits.com, and we ended up working with them to build out the site to handle volleyball as well. So Volleyball Recruits is 100% volleyball specific. We worked with USA Volleyball and the American Volleyball Coaches Association to put it together. So it's just a really great way for you guys to learn about the recruit process. Is options want to back as successful, and we'll get into kind of timelines. Yes,
Amanda. Hey, you were breaking up real bad. I'm not sure why.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and go from here, I guess.
Okay. Just interrupt me and let me know if I am. We can try. I mean, I'm hardwired in, so hopefully we won't have any issues with internet, but I guess just let me know and I can kind of slow down. So anyway, I was just giving you a little bit of background on Volleyball Recruits, and then I played volleyball in college as well. I played at the University of Denver, which is a Division I program just south of downtown Denver. So I've been through the recruiting process, just like you guys who love volleyball, and it was my dream to play. So I definitely know and have been in your shoes. It's really great for me to be able to work with parents and players because I certainly would have done things differently had I known what I know now. And the whole name of the game is exposure, starting early, being proactive, and taking some initiative on your own recruiting process. And that's what we're going to talk about in this presentation. So, kind of to give you a little bit of an overview, first we're going to teach you about types of schools and scholarships so you get a really good feel for what your options are. There's lots and lots of opportunities in college to play college volleyball. We're also going to break down the recruiting timeline, talk about what you should be doing as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior to stay on track. And then we're going to talk about how to get recruited, what are the things that you need to do throughout this process, and then I'm going to take you through a demo of VolleyballRecruits.net, which, like I said, is the official recruiting tool of USA Volleyball, and basically it's a marketing platform. It's going to allow you to put your information and video in front of any college coach in the country quickly and easily, and it just streamlines the whole process, makes it really easy for everyone involved. We also have a partnership, obviously, with Volleyball Pensacola, and you guys get some really great rates on each of our packages, which we'll talk about. If anyone's interested, then just know that this partnership is really for you, and really glad to be working with you guys because obviously they're really invested in your future. They wouldn't be partnering with us if they didn't, so that's great. And then we'll have Q&A in the end. And actually, if you guys have questions throughout the process or out this demo, Kelly, just kind of speak up, and we can address things as we go as well. All right, so let's move on now. We're going to talk about types of schools and scholarships. And there's three main divisions. The most popular division, what most people think of, is the NCAA, National Collegiate Athletic Association. And it sponsors about just over 15,000 schools. The NCAA is broken into three divisions: Division I, Division II, and Division III volleyball. And each of these divisions, there's different characteristics and scholarship opportunities with each, and we'll just kind of break it down so you get a feel for kind of what your opportunities are. So at the Division I level, there are about 330 programs. They offer 12 full ride scholarships per team. It's considered a head count sport, meaning if you're on a scholarship at a Division I program, you are either going to be on a full ride or you are walking onto that program essentially. They don't have the option to divvy up scholarships. So Jenny's on 10%, Susan's on 10%, and Becky's on 80% scholarship, or 50-50, or 20-20-20. You know, it's per the coach's discretion. At the Division II level. At the Division I level, you are either on a full ride or you're not. So that's called a head count sport. Division II, like I said, 295 programs. They give 8 full ride scholarships per team, and that's called an equivalency sport, and that's where you can divvy it up per the coach's discretion at the D2 level. There's also Division III programs, about 428 programs. So this is actually the largest number of volleyball programs in the country are sponsored at the Division III level. The kind of interesting thing about Division III is they actually don't offer athletic scholarships at all. So that's sometimes a concern. However, I would caution you to cross Division III programs off your list, because most likely if you're going to be going to a Division III program and you're playing volleyball, you're going to get money elsewhere, especially if you're a good student. You know, and it depends on the program. A lot of times coaches will work with you to find money in an academic, or there's lots of grant money. They tend to be really good institutions academically, and so it can be a really great fit for a lot of players who are looking for more of a volleyball and academic balance. So before you cross the Division III program off your list because you're worried about financial constraints, I would say keep an open mind, because you know, 50% or more of students generally are going to get some kind of aid. Okay, so that kind of breaks down the Division I, II, and III schools at the NCAA level. There's also NAIA programs, National Athletic Intercollegiate Association, about 250 programs, almost 243. And it's just a separate division. They still play volleyball. They still offer scholarships. It can be a really fantastic opportunity for a lot of players. Some of the biggest differences is they oftentimes are a little bit smaller. So if you're interested in like a smaller school, this could be a really great fit for you. Sometimes they're religiously affiliated. So if you have a really strong faith, you know, you might consider going to an NAIA program. That's not always the case, but certainly there are those opportunities. Sometimes they're a little bit, like the majority of them, I would say, are located sort of in the Midwest. So if you're interested in that region, NAIA school could be a really great fit. They also have scholarships. They have 8 full ride scholarships to give. They also are sort of divvied up per coach's discretion. One really thing about the NAIA is they don't have contact rules like they do for the NCAA, and we're going to get contact rules in a second. But essentially, right now, you guys are all young, so technically, coaches are not allowed to be contacting you, meaning sending you emails, sending you letters. They have really strict rules, the NCAA, about what they can do for young players, and it's actually a good thing. It's to protect your privacy, and we're going to get into that a little bit more, but the thing to note about NAIA schools is there are no contact rules. So if you're getting contacted by a coach early, before your junior year, then most likely that coach, if they're following the rules anyways, is going to be an NAIA school. And so it's a nice way for you to get a feel early on like where you might fit. So that's just one interesting thing about NAIA. There's also the junior college programs, the NJCAAs, the acronym for the junior college programs. They have about 305 schools. They are also split up into 3 different levels, Division I, Division II, and Division III. Generally, the divisions are broken up regionally, and they have lots and lots of scholarship money too, especially at the Division I and the Division II level, 14 full ride scholarships to give. They include tuition, room and board, and books. The D2 level, it's tuition only, or tuition, sorry, 14 full rides includes tuition, room, and board are not included. So tuition only, not room and board. But still, I mean, a big chunk of your education is going to get paid for. And just so you guys know, a junior college, it's a 2-year school, so it's something that you would go to a junior college and then you would transfer out in your junior year, either to a 4-year academic institution. And this is actually a really popular trend right now in the volleyball coaching community, is to recruit girls right out of the NJCAA. It's a good opportunity for someone who maybe is tight financially. They could go and play on a full ride scholarship and you can get some really great experience and then they transfer out. Or if you get started late in the recruiting process, which you guys are all young, so you still have lots of time, but that can be a really good option too if you do find yourself a little bit behind. The NJCAA programs tend to recruit late into your senior year. And then also for someone who maybe needs a little bit of bump in their GPA, they necessarily to their known pick at an NCAA institution, but they could go to a junior college, get their grades up, and transfer out. Like I said, it's really popular right now for coaches to be looking and recruiting from the NJCAA because you guys, if you go, you tend to have kind of figured out, you know how to balance volleyball and your social life and your academics, and you have most of the time really good experience too. You haven't been riding the bench for a couple years, you've been actually playing, and so it's really popular. All right, do we have any questions about schools or scholarships? Because I'm going to move on to a new topic here if not.
You guys have any questions? Nope, we're good to go.
Okay, perfect. So the next item up for bid is the recruiting timeline, and you guys are mostly freshmen, that's right. So we'll focus kind of on what you should be doing this year and next year. And really it's great. I mean, I'm so happy to hear that you guys are young, because learning about all of this stuff now, you're really going to put yourself in a position to be successful, like I said before. So as a freshman, really the one thing you want to be doing first and foremost is having fun. I mean, obviously you're playing volleyball because you love the sport. It's a great sport. It's something you can do your whole life, and you have lots and lots of volleyball left. So you want to just have fun this year, listen to your coaches. It's a really important year to be continuing to focus on your fundamentals. Generally, you guys are still growing and developing a little bit. So listen to your coaches and really focus on those fundamentals. Also, your grades are very important, and sometimes players and parents think maybe you can get into schools based on your athletic ability alone, and in some cases that is true, but coaches really do love to recruit players who have their academic situation put together, because if you can't, stay eligible, meaning you can't maintain a certain GPA, you're not allowed to play. And so if coaches are evaluating girls that are very similar athletically, most often they're going to go with the girl who has the better grades, just because it's a little bit easier for them and a little bit more comfortable for them. They're not going to be worrying about you being ineligible. So you just want to maintain and establish some really good study habits now. The better your grades are, the more open doors you have. That's true at the D3 level. It's really popular for coaches to recruit girls who have strong academics, because they can't necessarily get you on an athletic scholarship, but they can get you on an academic scholarship. So that's another reason to focus on it early. Also at the D2 level, like I said, they can split it up. They can also give you a partial academic and partial athletic. So if you have good grades, then your likelihood of getting more scholarship money at the D2 level is a lot higher. And then as far as actual volleyball is concerned, the really important thing to realize is it's never too early to start this recruiting process. And I know that sounds insane, like, oh my gosh, these girls aren't even driving yet. They don't even know about college. But you just want to start thinking about it. So what's important to you, start having those conversations now. And the benefit of starting early is a peace of mind. You're never going to feel like you're behind. Though I talk to parents all the time who, come up to us when we travel. We go to a lot of tournaments all over the nation, and they said, gosh, I wish I would have known, and these are juniors and seniors, I wish I would have known what I was supposed to be doing, because now I feel so far behind. And I don't know if I can catch up. So starting early just gives you that peace of mind, and you just know you're not going to miss out on any opportunities. Sometimes players and parents are hesitant about reaching out to coaches early because you know, they say, well, I'm still growing, I'm not as good as I'm going to be, but that's okay. Coaches aren't evaluating and recruiting you now. They're looking at your potential, and then they just want to see how you progress throughout your season, just to kind of give you a feel. The big top 10 programs in the country, I mean, they're looking at 8th graders, 7th graders even, seeing who those tall girls are out there. And so they're obviously not recruiting these girls, but they're just kind of keeping them on their list of what we call prospective student athletes, so a PSA, that's the acronym. And you just want to get on the coach's radar early so they can kind of see how you progress throughout the process. All right, so your sophomore year is really when this whole recruiting process really, really gets going. You don't want to wait till you're junior. If you wait till you're junior, you're way behind. If you start as a freshman, excellent. You definitely, if you haven't started and you're a sophomore, then you want to make sure that you do. And this is sort of what we recommend. In your sophomore year or before, you want to develop a list of 20 to 50 programs that interest you. And your list can be a combination of divisions, and this is sort of why you want to start thinking about having these conversations now, and just ask yourself, okay, do I want to go to a school that's close to home? Am I interested in beaches or mountains or farm country? You know, whatever region-wise, what are you looking for? And then what about size of school? Am I looking for a big college experience because maybe I went to a really small high school, or I went to a really small high school and I loved that, so I want to go to a smaller college. The other thing you can do in developing your list is going on a campus visit. It's never too early to do that. We recommend, and it's called an unofficial visit. Before you are a senior, all the visits that you'll take are called unofficial visits. And we're not going to get into that too much because you guys are pretty far away from that, but you can go visit a school at any time. And parents out there, if you guys have the opportunity maybe to go visit a few campuses at the end of a club tournament or maybe on a family vacation, it's the best way for players to start getting a feel for what it is they do like. So, you know, I would assume many of you out there have been to college, we've been on a campus, but if you ask a teenager, you know, what do you want in a school, they have no idea because they have nothing to really compare it to. They don't have a grasp of what college campus is like. So we certainly encourage you in your sophomore year to start going on some unofficial visits to the school. They can see the cafeteria, they can meet with the team. If the coach is willing, they can meet a coach, figure out where they are in their recruiting process and things like that. And there's some really great articles in our recruiting website, which I'm going to show you at the end, for the difference between unofficial and official visits. You can learn more about it there. The other thing you want to do in your sophomore year is to start getting footage. So if you don't have a video camera, this year would be the time to go ahead and get that because you are certainly going to need it. Coaches absolutely have to have video to be able to evaluate players. It does not happen where, I mean, I guess it can, but the chances are you're at a tournament, the right coach from the right school at the right time is watching you when you make that great play. It's just unrealistic to think that's where you're going to be recruited. It doesn't happen that way. You actually have to present yourself, market yourself to the college coaching community. And when you do that, you're going to want to also have a link to some video because that's the only way they'll be able to determine whether or not you might be a good fit for their school. So, and the idea is if you can introduce yourself leading into your big tournaments. For example, in this area, Colorado Crossroads is a very big one. Kelly, what are the qualifiers that you guys are going to this year?
Big South, definitely. And then we also do some tournaments in Birmingham, other tournaments in Atlanta and New Orleans and Tampa.
Cool. Okay. So Big South will be your big showcase event. It's actually the biggest tournament in the country. They have all ages. It's a very popular event for coaches to recruit at. One, because it's pretty centrally located for the most part, easy to get to. Atlanta is really easy to get in and out of. So a lot of coaches go recruit at that event. So if when you're a sophomore or even now, I mean, it's not too early to start now, you know, you can get your information together, and I'm going to show you in a second what that means. And you're going to introduce yourself to coaches, and it would be great if you could do it leading in to Atlanta because the idea is you want to just entice coaches enough to see you play in person. So by introducing yourself with a letter, attaching your video, you are basically inviting them to come see you play in person, and that's your goal. That's really all you can control. So you identify your list of schools, so you figure out kind of what you're interested in, you introduce yourself to them via letter or email, you attach video, and then you just follow up with coaches throughout your recruiting process. And that essentially is the recruiting process. It's not one letter that goes out one time and you hope for the best. It's called a recruiting process for a reason. It takes some time. But outside of that, outside of introducing yourself and making sure those coaches know who you are, the rest is unfortunately not in your hands up to that point. But if you don't do that, I guarantee you will be overlooked. There are too many players all vying for the same position, so you really need to get out there and understand that coaches are looking at you. They are generating their list of PSAs, especially in this really important sophomore year, and you want to get on that list for them to recruit. By doing all of this stuff in your sophomore year, you're basically setting yourself up to be very successful in your junior year and leading up to what we call a very important date in the recruiting process, and that is September 1st of your junior year. And September 1st of your junior year is the very first time NCAA coaches can send you any kind of recruited-related emails or letters. So they actually can say, you know, hey, Jessica, we saw you play at the Big South last year, and we are really interested in recruiting you. We think you'd be a great fit for our program. We'd love to invite you to come on an unofficial visit. So by doing all this stuff in your sophomore year, hopefully we reach September 1st of your junior year, and you kind of start to get a feel for where you stand. If you're not receiving any kind of feedback from coaches, either they don't know who you are, and that's usually the case because people haven't realized that they need to do this, or they may not be interested. Regardless, it's good information. If you send out letters, you get feedback, perfect, you're on the right track. If you send out letters, you don't get feedback, okay, maybe it's time to reevaluate my list of schools and think about different programs, different divisions, different areas of the country. But the problem is if you don't do any of this stuff in your sophomore year, you get to your junior year, you don't have anything in your email inbox or your mailbox, and you don't know what to think. Is it because they're not interested, or is it because they don't know who I am? Probably they don't know who you are, and then all of a sudden you're in panic mode. So let's talk about junior year. Your junior year really is your most important year in terms of evaluation. At this point, you should have already reached out to 20 to 50 schools. You guys are all still ahead of this time, so just make sure you do that. And this is the year where athletically, female athletes tend to make the biggest leap. So you are all of a sudden going to be stronger, jumping higher. You only have that passing platform, and you also generally have stopped growing at this point. So coaches can get a really good feel for how tall you are, and then, you know, like I said, you make that big jump athletically speaking, so they have a pretty good idea of what kind of recruit you're going to be. This is the year where they make decisions. So they've hopefully heard about you in your freshman and sophomore year, and now they're making decisions on whether or not they're going to be offering a scholarship. Just to give you an idea, there's about 150,000 high school age volleyball players competing for 3,500 roster spots every year. So yes, there's a lot of scholarship money out there and a lot of opportunities, but it is still extremely competitive. And coaches just can't evaluate everyone. There's way, way too many of you guys for them to know who you are. They only can evaluate players they know about or have shown interest. So that's the big kicker. You want to get on that recruiting radar early and then stay top of mind. And the great thing is, you know, just because coaches have rules about recruiting you doesn't mean that you have limitations. So you can send an email at any time. You can call that coach at any time, and you certainly should take advantage of that. The only reason that they don't call you and email you is because they're not, but that doesn't mean they're not actively looking and evaluating players and putting together their list. So you want to be very, very active with emails and phone calls, especially in your junior year, because decisions are being made. And by the way, when I talk about this whole recruiting process, I am talking about it from a D1 perspective. D1 recruiting, NCAA D1 recruiting tends to happen quite a bit quicker than some of the other divisions, but if you're prepared and doing all these things, you put yourself in a position to be recruited by a D1 program. If you don't end up going Division I, you're still way ahead of the game, which is where you want. You don't want to be playing catch up, like I said before. Okay, so hopefully you've done all the stuff you should be, and by the time you reach your senior year, you are actively communicating with 5 to 7 programs, meaning you are having phone conversations with the coach. By the way, in your junior year, coaches can finally call you back July 1st of your junior year, which is the summer leading into your senior year. And that's a little bit far away for you guys, but hopefully at this point, you're actively communicating with 5 to 7 programs via phone and email, and you have a really good idea what your options are. It's not the time to start, it's the time to make a decision. All right, so that is pretty much the recruiting timeline. That's what you need to know. Any questions about that before we move on?
No, we're good, man.
Okay, great. Alrighty, so next is, how do I get recruited? What are the things that I need as a student athlete, as a player, as a parent, to be successful in this recruiting process? So the number one thing is obviously you have to have talent. Yes, this is a job. If you are going to play volleyball in college, you are getting paid to do that. I played volleyball at the Division I level. It was by far the best job I've ever had. I love my job now. It's very fun. But playing volleyball in college is so much fun. It's a lot of work, but it's an incredible experience. Sometimes people are a little hesitant about, being owned by schools. I hear that sometimes. Well, I'm a little hesitant to go play Division I volleyball because I don't want that coach to own me. And that just has to do with your mentality. If you're wanting to compete at that level, you just need to know what you're getting into. It is your job. You're going to be spending 20 hours or more a week, at your craft, which is volleyball. But it's a wonderful, wonderful experience. You also have to have academics to get into that program, depending on the division, and like a lot of the Ivy Leagues, before they even think about recruiting somebody, they want to know if they even have a shot of getting you past their admissions department. So that goes back to just maintaining good study habits early and doing all that stuff, academic-wise. They also look at your character. So it's not all about grades in volleyball. They want to know if you're a good team player. And I know if you've been in volleyball long enough, you've had the dreaded third game, you crushed them in the first game, they came back in the second game, and then you're leading by, I don't know, score is 8-3, in the third game, and all of a sudden they come back and win. And how does that happen? Volleyball is such a team chemistry sport, where if you have a a player on your team that isn't a good team player, it rubs off. You're not going to be very successful as a volleyball team if you don't have good team chemistry. So that's certainly something that they look at. And so when you're going through the recruiting process, it's something you want to be aware of. What is my attitude like? What am I like when I am playing very well? More importantly, what am I like when I'm not playing very well? Am I still encouraging my teammates, or am I doing the pouty face and stare at the floor? Am I talking back to the refs or my coaches? I mean, those are all things that coaches pay attention to at tournaments. They also look at parents, believe it or not. So I would encourage the moms and dads out there, before you start screaming at the ref for that horrible play, or screaming at the poor line judge who wasn't paying attention, biting her fingernails or whatever. Trust me, we've all been there. Just check yourself, because coaches are paying attention to that as well. You also have to be very proactive in this process, and we talked about that in the timeline, not waiting until your junior or senior year to get started, because you'll be behind, so you just want to start early. You have to get exposure. That's the number one thing. I guarantee 100% of the time, coaches cannot recruit a player that they don't know exists. And that's just simple science. So, you got to get out there. The other thing is, Kelly, will you please have all of the players in the room raise their hand? Everyone raise your hand. Okay, so players, repeat after me. The recruiting process is my job. Hopefully they did that. It's hard to say over a webinar. So I like to do that when we do recruiting seminars and stuff because players, I'm talking directly to you, this is your future. So, you know, mom and dad have jobs. They maybe went to college or graduated from high school and are working. You know, they've got this kind of thing figured out. So it's not their responsibility to do your recruiting process for you, to do your recruiting work for you, I should say. It's your future. It's your responsibility. Coaches don't want to hear from mom and dad. They want to hear from you because you are going to be the ones who are playing for them, not mom and dad. So it's really important that you take this to heart. It should be just like any other homework assignment that you have. You know, you are basically preparing for your future. You want to give yourself every opportunity that you can to be successful. And just, you know, you don't need to be kind of intimidated by coaches. They talk to players all the time, and I get it. I was there. It's scary to call a coach and, you know, you don't really know what to say or whatever, but, you know, people like me and your club coaches, we're all here to help you through that process, but you should be the ones communicating with coaches. It's also not, so it's your parents' job, and I like to break it up this way. So you have responsibility as a player. That's, you know, reaching out to coaches. Your parents have some responsibilities. Number one is getting you into club volleyball, so they've done that. That's check. Everyone pat yourselves on the back because that's the number one thing is to get exposure through club volleyball. That's the only way recruiting really happens these days. The second is to support you, so, you know, helping with supporting you through the ups and downs that happen, you know, maybe investing in a tool like Volleyball Recruits once you get of a certain age so you can streamline your recruiting process. Parents, sometimes that means sitting their butt down like my mom did on a Sunday night and saying, you will not get up from this chair until all these questionnaires are filled out and returned. So sometimes it's a little bit of tough love, but you're not sending emails and writing letters on your daughter's behalf. That should be your daughter's job. And just so you know, it's also not your club coach's job to get you recruited. That's a big misconception. Oh, well, I play club volleyball, so I'll get a scholarship. It doesn't work that way. Your coach's job is to help prepare you physically and mentally to play at the next level. They're there to communicate with coaches once you've already sort of gotten some interest out. You know, so they're there to field calls. A lot of times what will happen is a coach will see you. They'll call up Kelly and say, hey, you know, we saw Jessica and at the Big South, and we think she could be a really good fit for her program. Tell me about Jessica. What's she like as a player? How long have you been working with her? What are her strengths? What are her weaknesses? Though that's their responsibility. It's not their responsibility to go find you schools and get you recruited. It's just not going to happen, I guarantee it. And if you wait for that to happen, you'll be disappointed. Kelly, anything you want to add to that? Because that's a pretty important point.
No, I 100% agree with everything you said.
Okay, cool. Do you guys have any questions about that stuff before we move on to what's next? We all good? Cool, okay. So, all right. So what do coaches need to evaluate you? It's actually pretty simple. You know, a lot of people get stressed, like, oh my God, the recruiting process is upon us and I don't know what to do. What do they need? It's actually not that much information. Again, your goal is to introduce yourself, give them the information and video that they need to evaluate you so they come watch you play. So this is what they need. Some basic information about you, your name, what high school, and, you know, obviously where you're from, your contact information so they can get in touch with you if they're interested, and also so they know like if you're of the right age. They also need to know your recruiting class, your high school graduation year, your coach's contact information so they can, you know, call up Kelly and talk to you about whether you'd be a good fit for their program and ask her all those questions we just talked about. You also need to provide your volleyball information, so what club team are you on, your travel schedule, obviously your position, your number is important, some stats about you. Most important as far as stats, parents sometimes get really worked up about stats, like, oh my God, I don't know her hitting percentage, so I can't reach out to coaches yet. really what they want to know are some simple stats. So your height, your jump touch, so like how high can you jump when you're doing an approach, your block touch, your standing reach, your vertical. Some simple stats. It doesn't have to be, how many sets per match necessarily. Some awards that you've won are nice indicators. For example, if you are not a first-team All-American, you're probably not going to Penn State. I really, really wanted to go to Stanford, and I just wasn't good enough, unfortunately. So, but sometimes they look at awards. If you're, like I said, a first-team All-District, those are the type of players that are going to those institutions. You also want to include your academics. This is really important for especially like the Ivy League schools and some of those really top, more selective programs in the country that look at academics first. So, they want to be able to tell if they can get you into their program. And a lot of them do check out academics first before they recruit. So having your transcripts available, your SAT, ACT scores, and your GPA are good indicators. Obviously, as freshmen and sophomores, you're not going to have your SAT scores, so your GPA would be something that they look for. Are you on a good train? Are you somebody that I think is going to maintain that high GPA? So at the point where I could recruit you, I'm able to get you into my program. You also want to include video, and that is by far the most important part. I would say academics and video is the most important part that you need to include, and it's also a little bit probably the most challenging. It's not hard to take footage. It's more difficult to actually do something with it, but it's important. Coaches don't have time to sit down and watch hours of footage. They don't. It's impossible. So what you want to do is put together we recommend there's basically three types of video that we recommend. One is a highlight video, and the highlight video is meant to show coaches your potential. It's when you think of like the ESPN highlights that you see, when you're watching the highlights from the game. It's all of your best plays from various matches pulled together into one 4 to 5 minute video. There's also what's called a skills video. And the purpose of a skills video is to show coaches your consistency and your fundamentals. So it's drills. It's you and Kelly or whoever is handling skills video. Do you guys help with skills video sessions, Kelly? The filming of it?
We have before. It's really, we depend on the players to initiate. If they want to make a skills video, they contact us, and we'll help them do whatever. Set it all up, get a setter in there for them, whatever they need.
Yeah,
but it's really on an as-needed, as-requested basis.
Exactly, and that's how it is with most club programs. So, obviously I recommended that you guys get a video camera, in your sophomore year or before, so now would be a good time. Generally what will happen is, like Kelly said, you'll contact your coach. You say, hey, I'm looking to put together a skills video. They'll set it up. You're probably responsible for bringing your own video camera. And then when you edit it, the goal is to show coaches your consistency and fundamentals when performing the skills that pertain to your position. So, for example, if you were a middle blocker, you would want to show hitting the one, hitting the slide, hitting the three, and I don't know if you guys call those the same, but the quicks, the slides. You also want to show like serving. You also want to show some defense, and you basically group these sort of in chunks. So you want to show your best 3 to 5 attempts at each drill. And I know, hopefully this isn't getting too confusing. It would be easier to show you. We did a little test earlier, though, and the video was really jumpy. So for some really good examples of what a highlight video and what a skills video look like, you can actually go to volleyballrecruits.net, the homepage, and click on highlight reels, and it shows examples of what this looks like. So just so you know, that's why I'm not showing you an example. It just wasn't coming through very well. The third type of video is unedited footage, which is exactly like it sounds. It's you, in a game, and it's unedited. So there's, you could take out timeouts and things, but essentially it's you playing volleyball point to point to point to point. So to recap, highlight video shows your potential. Your skills video shows your consistency and your fundamentals. And unedited footage shows coaches sort of what's realistic. What's a realistic view of how you play. This becomes really popular when, they're going to the Pacific Northwest qualifier instead of the Big South, so they don't have a chance to see you play, so they want to see some unedited footage. Most often coaches want either a highlight video or a skills video, and they always also want unedited footage. So we just recommend if you have all three, your player profile looks really great, you have everything that coaches need to evaluate you. And essentially the reason you attach video is they want to know whether or not you can compete at their level. And if you reach out to a coach and you don't include video, it would be like applying for a job but not attaching your resume. Coaches don't know what your qualifications are. Or another analogy would be, I don't know, I assume most of you guys know what Craigslist is. If you've ever bought anything off Craigslist or even anything, Amazon, if there's not a picture that goes with the product, you're pretty hesitant to purchase it because you don't really have a good feel for what it looks like or what it is. Video works the same way. If you don't include video, you can be the smartest and the coolest player on paper, but they're not going to recruit you or really pay much attention to you, to be honest, until they get a feel for whether or not you can compete at their level. So that's why video is so important. All right, so that sums up the kind of the recruiting process. Now I want to show you a demo of volleyballrecruits.net so you can, just learn a little bit about what we have to offer. And once you guys get to the point where you're ready to start reaching out to schools and stuff, this can be a really good solution for you. And like I said, we have formed a partnership, so as a Volleyball Pensacola player, you guys get really good discounts on all of our packages. Okay, so what is take you through volleyballrecruits.net. This is exactly how you guys would use the tool. And we'll just start. So let me actually make this a full screen. Okay, so the first real step in when you become a member, if you decide you want to become a member, is to fill in your online player profile. And this is basically your volleyball resume. So all that stuff on that slide I was talking to you about before, about what do coaches need from me, your basic information, your contact information, your video, all that stuff. It's hosted here on your player profile, and it's very simple. All of these fields are predetermined. You'll notice this is what it looks like in the non-edit mode, and when I'm ready to edit it, I just click edit. And I go through here and fill in all this stuff. And it's all the things that coaches are looking for. When we were working with USAV and the AVCA, we basically put together, these fields. So it's everything that they need to know about you. If not on here, that's because they don't care at this point anyway. So contact information, your parents' contact information, some of your extracurricular activities, your volleyball information. You can click as many that apply. Weight, jersey number, athletic honors, coaches, high school coaches' contact information, your statistics, so what we talked, like height, jump touch, block touch, vert, all those ones that we talked about earlier. Your club team name and the tournament that you're going to be attending. That way coaches know they'll be able to see you play in person. So for you guys, you would just come down here and click Big South, because that's going to be your big event. All of your academic information as well. So basically, information-wise, this is what they need to know about you. You can also upload an unlimited amount of pictures. I know the picture guy is wildly successful at all these tournaments, so, actually having a place to put all your action shots is, kind of fun. You can upload transcripts securely to your player profile, and you can upload as much video as you like. It's unlimited. Like I said, we recommend a highlight video, a skills video, and some unedited footage. If you start getting more than 2 or 3 videos on your player profile, that's fine, but basically you're going to be sending this profile to coaches through the system, which I'll show you here in a second, and the idea is you want to get them interested, so you want to point them to your best video. So having more than like 3 gets a little bit diluted because you want to show them, put your sort of best foot forward, if you will. So that's the profile piece. Then we talked about developing your list of 20 to 50 schools, and our members use our school search feature to do that, where you can search by region, size of school, based on number of students, how academically selective the school is, and division. And every single program in the country is a registered user of Volleyball Recruits. So literally you type in what's important to you, the system is going to generate a list of schools that fit. So what I'd like to do, if somebody's open to it, is actually get maybe a volunteer and we'll run your search. You can tell me sort of what you're potentially interested in, and then we'll get a really good feel for schools that might be a good fit. So does anyone want to volunteer?
All right, so we've got Sina.
Hi, Sina. Thank you for volunteering. Okay, so just tell me kind of what you're interested in, and you can check more than one. So you can check as many boxes as you want here.
Like what region of the country do you want to stay in? Do you want to stay here in the southeast? Do you want to go to the west coast? Do you want to go anywhere? Okay. What about the northeast? Oh, I guess Amanda, you have to click it. But,
Yeah.
she was saying she definitely wants to go to southeast.
Okay.
And can you click more than one?
Yes, you can. You can click as many as you like. Want me to click northeast also?
Yes.
Okay. Southeast and northeast. Okay. Size. It'd be smaller than 3,000. You see the ranges. I think UWF. How many students? Does anybody know what UWF is? About 12. So if you were looking at, UWF would fall into that large category.
So maybe between 3 and 20,000 students, so medium or large.
What do you think? Do you think that sounds right? Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. And then academic selectivity, this is based on how U.S. News and World Report ranks the college. So depending on your grades, if you're a pretty good student, then I would say, checking selective and up. Because we use volleyball as the way to get in to the school that maybe based on your own academics you wouldn't be able to. And as a personal testament, I'm pretty confident that if I was applying to the University of Denver, I don't know that I would have gotten there on school only. So it's you use volleyball as a way to kind of get in the door. So I always suggest, reaching a little bit.
Selective and up, that sounds good.
Okay. And then what about division?
Division 1.
Division 1.
Okay.
And
Maybe 1 and 2?
yeah.
Okay. So you want to see all the schools that would fit into that profile? Okay, let's go ahead and run it then, Amanda.
Okay. Let's run her search. So you'll notice we have 8 pages of schools that fit that criteria, which is a lot of schools. If you wanted to maybe narrow down, let's say you're an exceptional student, so let's say we just want to see the top programs in the country. So now we're looking at more and most selective schools that are in the north, so on the East Coast, that compete at the Division I and Division II level. And we can kind of like scroll through here and check them out. Once you're ready, so once you have your list, and by the way, there's about 20 schools per page, so we suggest 20 to 50 schools. This would be a really good list for you to start with. And you can never reach out to too many schools, by the way. The worst thing that they can say is no, and the best case scenario is they say yes and you say no because you have so many people interested. You want to be in that position where you are not having to choose between 1 or 2 schools. You're choosing between maybe 5 and 6 schools. That's the goal. Okay, so it was Celia. Was that your name?
Sina.
Sina. I'm sorry, Sina. And you probably don't maybe recognize some of these schools, but is there any school on this list that kind of jumps out at you as somewhere you might be interested in going potentially? We can go to the next page if you want.
Hey, Amanda, can you, all these headers at the top, can you sort by different headers?
That's sort of something that we overlooked. We're working on that upgrade because it would be great to put them like in alphabetical order. I agree. No, not at the moment.
Or by state or something.
Yeah, that's also another upgrade that we're working on. You'll be able to, there's some more filters that we're working on, so state will be one. You'll also be able to search by conference. That's probably coming in the next, 30 to 90 days. We're about to be, it's kind of, phase 2 is in our beta testing phase right now, but yeah, that's coming. But for now, this is, by these 4 categories.
Do you see any that you can?
Do you want me to go to the next page? Let's go to the next one and see. Like Princeton is a great school.
Mississippi State.
Okay, Sina said Mississippi State.
Okay, Mississippi State. All right, so we'll click on Mississippi State, and now this page is basically the school's profile, and you get a feel for kind of, you know, they play in Division I, they're more selective large. If you click on this link, it'll take you right to their athletic site, so you can go check out their majors and the girls' bios and the rosters and things like that, what conference they compete in. And this is the best part, I think, really about volleyball recruits is every single coach in the country is in our system. So instead of you guys having to go through and search, you know, spend hours researching and collecting contact information for coaches, you literally click on that school's profile, come down here, and if you want to introduce yourself to Coach Hazelwood, literally you just hit send a message. And it'll bring up this message box where you would type your message just like any other email you've ever sent and hit send, and off it goes to a link with a link to your full player profile and video. And we're actually going to send a quick pretend message. So Celia, thank you so much, or Sina, I apologize, I keep mispronouncing your name. Thank you so much for being our volunteer. Everyone can give her a round of applause. Thank you. Okay. So what I want to do now is just show you exactly what the message looks like when it comes into the coach's email inbox. So we're going to send a pretend message to Volleyball University from our dummy player, which is Kelly Palma. One really neat thing is anytime you coach the message, both assistants or any assistants that are included in the system are automatically CC'd on the message, and that's great because they do a lot of the initial recruiting evaluations when it comes to identifying prospective student athletes. So we always recommend you send a message to the head coach, all the assistants will be CC'd, and it puts you in a really good position. How do you, is it Sina, like that? How do you spell your name?
S-I-N-A.
S-I-N, okay. Sina test message. You know, and your subject line would probably want to be like, you know, 2014 middle blocker, 3.9 GPA, something like that, or hopefully a 3.9. I didn't have a 3.9 in high school, but hopefully you guys do. Anyway, your message goes here. And there's a really great sample introductory message in our recruiting resources section that I'll show you in a second, but the idea is it should be short, it should be fact-based, and it should link to video. And through this system, that all happens pretty much automatically. So you type your message, and you hit send. There's no copying and pasting of links from YouTube or any of that nonsense. It just automatically included your link. And I'm going to show you that once we get logged in here. So now I'm logging into head coach Amanda Millard from Volleyball University, so you guys can see exactly what this message looks like. All right. So Sina, if this was your player profile, this would say Sina, last name. Right now we're logged in as Kelly Palma, so that's why it says Kelly. But you'll notice it comes right from the player. It doesn't come from Volleyball Recruits. So when coaches receive your message, it's very personal. It comes in just like you are sending an email right from your AOL or your Gmail or whatever account. It has your subject line. They open your message. They read your message, everything we typed in that box. Oops, I typoed that, didn't I? But anyway, everything that you wrote in that box will show up here above the line, and everything below the line is automatically included with every message that leaves the system. So to view my full profile and video, simply click on the link below. Thank you, Sina. And they click on this link. They're automatically going to that and click to your full profile and video in one click. So you can see that it's just really easy for coaches. You literally give them all of that stuff that we were talking about, the things that they needed to know about you to evaluate you with the click of a button. And coaches really love that because, you know, they can basically see a 360-degree view of who you are as a player, where you're going to be, if they can get you into their school, your stats, all of that stuff that we talked about. The other neat thing is you'll notice now we're actually logged in as a coach, so if I wanted to find a player, coaches run searches for players on our site as well. So if they, for example, wanted to see 2013 middle blockers, you know, they can enter their search criteria and all of our players will pull up, and that happens a lot where, you know, coaches are running searches and they find players through our system. I would say the idea is you don't want to just sign up for volleyball recruits or really any recruiting tool. There's, I mean, the other ones out there, but you don't want to just sign up and put some information online and walk away. That doesn't work. You have to actively, you know, send messages to coaches, and we feel like we make it really easy through the site. Okay, so that's the demo. Does anyone have any questions about volleyball recruits? Okay.
Nope.
Good. Okay. Well, then I also want to show you. So everything that I just showed you there, it is a paid service. You guys get discounts, but really great discounts, and it's actually very affordable. I'll share with you prices here in a second for anyone interested. But one kind of neat part of volleyball recruits is, let me actually log out and take you to the home page. We have a free recruiting guide section as well. Which is this site. And so even if you're not interested in becoming a Volleyball Recruits member, I would seriously encourage you, especially as you guys are young and learning, to check out our recruiting guide. We have all sorts of free articles. You can buy this guide if you want, but you can also read it free online. And it just talks about, in a little bit more detail, some of the things that we talked about, you know, pitfalls to avoid, how to improve your profile, essential actions, more details about the recruiting timeline. Couple really great articles are this level of recruitment and where do I fit. Level of recruitment talks about, like, okay, well, I guess I'll just show you. If I am a sophomore, I know I'm being extremely recruited if I have over 60 written contacts from different schools. You know, and that would be in the form of a general letter. They're not allowed to send personal emails until you're a junior, but you're getting coaches. You know, are getting questionnaire requests, things like that. And then you also, maybe if I'm not being recruited, I've received any camp brochures or general admissions only. So it kind of gives you an idea for where you stand. So if you're interested in going to Penn State and gotten a letter from them, then, you know, kind of helps you figure out where you stand. Another popular one is this where do I fit? We kind of took some averages for positions. So if I'm a middle blocker and I'm not, you know, at least 5, I would say maybe a little high, like 5'8". You know, I'm going to have a tough time playing at a D2 program or a D1 program. These are kind of averages based on height and those general statistics that they look at. So that's a really popular article. There's also a link down here that's called More VBR Articles and all sorts of different stuff, and we're constantly updating this. But Facts About Scholarship is really a good one. Going on a campus visit, it talks about questions you should be prepared for. There's a really great article. Actually, Kelly, this might be helpful to you even. How to shoot a skills video. We talk about the camera angles that you should be shooting, the drills that coaches want to see based on your position. Lots of good stuff. Roles of the recruiting process, preparing for a telephone call, how to shoot video, all that stuff. So I would, like I said, this is all free, so even if you're not interested in becoming a Volleyball Recruits member, which hopefully you are, but if you're not, then this is just really good education. And let me go back now to my presentation. Whoops. Yeah, actually that's okay. So as a Volleyball Pensacola player, you guys get really good discounts on all of our packages, and I'll just kind of breeze through this quickly so you guys get a feel, and the information is also listed on the website. But the bronze package is basically our basic package. It's everything that I just showed you. It's $149 for you, which is $50 off our standard rate for a 1-year membership. If you wanted us to help you edit your video, then we have upgraded packages that are really popular. You basically send us your footage and we'll help you put together a skills video, a highlight video, or both. So silver package includes the editing of a skills video, gold package includes the editing of a highlight video, and a platinum package includes the editing of both. Plus these also include recruiting consultations with me. We sit down and help you put an action plan together and make sure you're off in the right direction in your recruiting process. And actually there's a new section on Volleyball Pensacola's homepage called College Recruiting Assistance. We'll go check that out really quick. So if you were interested in learning more or wanted to find my contact information afterwards, either click on our little logo up here, or you can click on College Recruiting Assistance, and this talks about the different packages, and you can watch a demo again similar to the stuff that we went through today. It links to a few of the recruiting articles, but this is where you would go if you're interested in signing up, right from the homepage. Does anyone have any questions? That is the end of my presentation. Kelly, what? I think I heard somebody chatting over there. What was it?
Hang on.
Okay, no problem.
I guess the question kind of, Amanda, is I guess when you're talking about, all these players obviously play high school volleyball and play club volleyball. And, high schools, we always send our girls at my school to these college camps and clinics and things like that. And then club, they're also doing these big tournaments and things. I mean, how does all of those, I guess, kind of go together? I mean, is there a better time of year and that sort of thing? I mean, do you want to be, I guess, contacting some of these coaches that are running these team camps and things as well?
Yeah, I think summer camps is a great idea, and that's a really great question. You have to be careful with summer camps because every coach in the country is going to send you a brochure to their summer camp, or not every coach, but it's a huge moneymaker for a lot of schools. But it's also a really, really great opportunity for you to kind of get some additional exposure and go check out that school's campus. So it's like a little mini unofficial visit if you want to look at it that way. A, you're going to get some good training. B, you're going to be able to work with the coach, get a feel for who they are. They're going to be able to get a better feel for you. You're going to be able to eat in the cafeteria and stay in the dorms and kind of get a feel for that, if that school would be a good fit for you, and vice versa. So I think it's a great idea. Personally, summer camps made a big difference for me. At the University of Denver, I went to their summer camp the summer after my sophomore year. And I went from being like number, I think she said like 7 or 8 on their list of recruits to number 3. So it, she got to see me over 3 to 4 days and ended up, bumping me up. Number 1 said no, number 2 said no, and I got the scholarship and I said yes, and it was great. So I do think it's a really great idea. It's kind of like any other marketing campaign that you think of, if you've ever taken any marketing classes, it's all about hitting people from different areas. So, calling them, sending them an email, going to their summer camp. These are all things that you can do to increase your exposure. And at some point you have to start making decisions. So if I'm not getting any feedback from a coach after I've reached out, maybe 3 or 4 times, then you have to also take that as good information. Maybe that's not going to be the school for me. But, really you can't overdo it as far as number of schools or getting out there. If you're not talented enough to play at that level, you're never going to play at that level. But by reaching out and kind of going to these things, you're going to get a feel for where you stand based on the feedback you get. That's a good question. To sum it up, summer camps are a good thing. You just want to be cautious, the ones that you go to, because you want to go to a school that is actively communicating with you, one that you're really genuinely interested in going to, and one where you think you have the potential to play. And by the way, just as a side note, the best people to ask about, where do I kind of fit are your club coaches. Kelly, she's seen people go on and play at the next level. So don't be afraid to ask her, where do you kind of see me? And if you guys are Volleyball Recruits members, we talk about that stuff too in our recruiting consults. We'll look at your video and your academics and make some suggestions about what schools might be a good fit for you. But just don't be afraid to kind of start asking those questions to get a feel for where you stand, because it's hard to know where you are compared to all the other players in the country unless you kind of have somebody to talk to about it. Any other questions?
No, that's pretty much takes care of it, I think.
Okay. Alrighty, guys. Well, then, if you don't have any other questions, I'll just wrap up by saying, first, congrats on starting this process early and even learning about it. You already separated yourselves from 80% of the country. A lot of people are very, very ignorant and unaware about what recruiting takes, and so you've taken a really good first step in doing that, so that's awesome. Couple just other points. One being, start getting that match footage now. You don't want to get into a position where coaches start asking for that stuff and you don't have it, so I really encourage you to get on that ball. Start thinking about having those conversations about what types of schools you might be interested in, and then just get your information out there as early as you can, because really it's going to put yourself in a really good position. And obviously we are here to help you through that process if you feel like Volleyball Recruits would be a good tool for you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Amanda.
You're welcome. I will also, Kelly, follow up with a email that has a link to this video, so that way we can maybe get that posted on your webpage if anyone else wasn't able to participate today.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, and this is my contact information, guys. Please call me if you have any questions about recruiting in general. I'd be happy to talk to you about your daughter individually if you just have some questions that you want to run by me, or obviously if you have questions about the tool, we're here to help as well.
Okay.
All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.